And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And we are going to finish up the Battle Royale festival with the Belko experiment. Yes. So, the Belko experiment was released in 2016. And we're going to tell the story, and then we're going to talk about it. Now, the Belko experiment opens in Bogota, Colombia, where we see Mike and Barry and Wendell. Two assholes right there. Leandra, Danny, Terry. They're all arriving at the gate of Belko Industries. Now, Barry notices right off the bat that something seems a little bit unusual. He sees people being turned away. He doesn't really make the connection, but he sees people being turned away at the gate. Many employees that he knows are being turned away, but then some, like himself, are not, and there's an unusual amount of security. So he goes on in, and we are introduced to Danny, which is kind of the person that I feel most, morally I feel the most like Mike. But as far as my behavior in this situation would go, Danny, Dany, it's a girl, but her choices and her behavior during this situation is kind of most like what I would have done in this situation. So yeah, she's sort of my soulmate as far as what my actions would have been in this kind of situation. Be sure to let me know who in this movie you would have been most like, but behavior-wise. So, this is her first day actually, and we are getting introduced to her, and we're getting introduced to some other secondary characters like the stoner, the guy that likes the ants, the hefty big boned woman, the grunts, because Barry and Wendell, oh no, that means I'm going to call him that through this whole thing. Wendell and Barry and Mike and Leandra, they're like, executives, whereas Danny and Roberto and the stoner guy and stuff like that, I just call him Stoner, I can't even remember his name, but they are like the grunts. So, we have this tier, of course, in a corporation. So we get introduced to some of the other grunts around her as she gets used to the job. Now, Mike begins to wonder as well, like Barry did, why so many employees are missing. And he ends up, calling Evan, who is the big security guard at the front desk, and he asks them, why are there so many people missing? Because it seems like pretty much all of the locals are gone. And Evan says, yeah, that he noticed that too. He couldn't tell him what it was about because he didn't know that it was just something corporate had sent down. And that was to send all the locals home. So, we immediately have some suspicion from Mike that corporate did it. We then hear the voice for the first time. It comes on the intercom. Starts telling them that there are 80 people, which is interesting because that's the exact number that was in the human race. The video that I did on the Battle Royale called The Human Race, it was also 80 contestants, if you want to call them contestants. I would rather call them kidnapped participants. But so there's 80 left in the building, and that they must kill 2 in the next 30 minutes. That these employees must kill 2 of their fellow employees within the next 30 minutes, or there will be repercussions. So, of course, they start what you would. Everybody starts running around. What's going on? There's no internet line. There's no connections. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no phone. They start doing all of the normal stuff that you would do in a situation like this. They also at this time see the entire building plated up. These big, giant steel plates come over the door, all the windows, all the way to the roof. So it's sort of like now a metal-plated fortress. So they're even more scared at this time. All the phone lines are dead. So they decide to all meet in the lobby. The windows, the doors are all plated up. They try to figure out, like what's going on. They give all of their theories about what could be happening. Several of them decide to go to the roof and try to see what they can see, make contact with the outside world, because it's the only way out. So we have that group that goes up there. They figure out, of course, why that the locals were sent home when they realize that all the people that are left are those people that, and this is actually true, they do have tracking devices that foreign countries, in Brazil especially, Argentina, Colombia, especially a lot of South American countries, they put tags on their employees, especially if they're foreign employees, so that if they are kidnapped by some local gang or whatever, that they have some GPS way of finding them. So they start to kind of wonder about that. They realize that, a few are killed in the lobby. One is killed on the roof when they're trying to wave at people. Not that anybody can really see, but they see, I think it's 4 people total are killed. That's what makes them, when they go up and look at the bodies, they realize that it was not gunshots. I mean, you have to remember, it's plated armor, so how would have any gunshots got into the place? So they're at least smart enough to know something else has to be going on. This caused them to look at their heads and realize that it was the tag in their heads that blew up. So they basically realize at this time that they are all walking bombs. The locals didn't have them, so that's why they were sent home. Mike freaks out and runs into the bathroom, which is a good idea. But, a lot of people in these battle royales don't realize that they would have planned. Whoever has put you in this situation would have already planned for any ideas and reactions that you may have. So he runs into the bathroom and actually tries to cut his tag out of the back base of his head, which, doesn't look like that would have been it didn't feel good, obviously, and was pretty gross on top of it. So he tries to cut his out, and instead the voice sees him and says, you will stop right now. You got a 10-second countdown or we will blow your head up if you do not stop trying to cut it out. So he does that. He does stop at the count of 2, I believe, or maybe 1. But he definitely pushed it right to the very limit. And, yeah. So, like I said, we saw those that went up to the roof. They have definitely come back down. And tensions begin to rise, and we start to see a sort of factionization of the employees, as you would imagine. Barry asks Evan for the armory keys, but he refuses because he's like, well, I don't know about that, because Barry wants to get into that armory where they supposedly keep, the security guns and stuff like that. So Barry hides it. The key, refuses to let him have it. Now we get to see where Dani, that was that new girl, she had ran into the basement. As soon as that shit started, she needed to remove herself from the situation. I don't know what I'm going to do, was kind of the feeling that I got from her. I don't know what I'm going to do, but whatever I'm going to do, considering the rules and stuff that's just been laid down, I need some quiet time to think about what I'm going to do in this fucked up situation. That would have been me. I wouldn't have been one of those standing there in the lobby yakking about, I wonder what, and I wonder how, and let me think of this idea. No, I'm going to be off somewhere by myself, hiding like a motherfucker, trying to go, what can I do to save my ass in this situation? So I highly agreed with her on that. So I immediately sort of took to her as in, yes, that's what I would be doing. So she goes down there and hides in the basement, and while the two guys, who is it, Lonnie and Bud, come in to try to fix the air conditioning because the air conditioning has been turned off to make them hot and frothy. Anything to make the situation more comfortable is why I believe that they had done that. Now, while they're down there, they hear the voice come on telling them not to be disabling any more cameras, not to be trying to remove the tags from your head, or things would get really ugly. And that there were 76 people now left, and in 2 hours we want 30 of you dead. If you do not do this in 2 hours, if 30 of you are not dead by however y'all want to do it, then we will kill 60 of you. So is 30 dead in 2 hours or 60? We'll get, shall we say, exploded. Whatever. So, this of course makes them freak out. Everybody is freaking out even more. You start to really see the split, because there's always going to be a split. You're going to have the immoral, tough, Rambo type survival instinct people that are just going to be like, fine, I'm going to kill them all. And then you're going to have this is immoral, this is bad, we've got to work together. You're going to have those two factions. And we immediately start seeing that split with Barry trying to get into the armory. He's hooked up with Terry. He's hooked up with Wendell and a couple of others, but they're the leaders. So he's hooked up with them. You can tell who's going to be the bad faction, whereas over here you've got Mike and Leandra and the people that are following them. So we've kind of split into these factions already. They're trying to get the weapons. Evan refuses, pulls a gun on them. Sometimes I just don't know. Once the killing starts, Wendell ends up killing Lonnie down there in the basement. He goes crazy. And he's freaking out. I think he's a little autistic, or a lot autistic. There's something definitely wrong with him. Because you've got the bulldog and the chihuahua between him and Bud. He's the nervous little chihuahua. And Bud is the bulldog. And, Bud keeps trying to get him to calm down. But Lonnie is just, he immediately freaks out. And this was like a really gross scene when he kills Bud. Now remember, Danny is right over there in the corner. She's watching this whole thing. So Lonnie is freaking out so bad that when Bud tries to calm him down, he whacks him in the head with like a lug nut type thing, a lug wrench looking thing. And that was a very, very well done scene, and it was very interesting because when he hit him, he basically, it looked like a crater in the moon right here on the side of his head. And the way he's like, whoa, hold up. And he stood up and he turned to the camera, and you saw this big crater in his head. And he's just like looking at Lonnie. He's like, what? Wow. Like, what just happened? What's happened now? And you're in that moment, I was just like going, oh my God, because obviously, his brain had just been crushed, and he's just like, what happened, man? That was a very, very well done and very disturbing scene. So it's at that time that Lonnie then sees Donnie. And he goes after her, and they have this big scuffle. He's trying to kill her, and she pushes him against the wall. And it's like that movie with Christian Bale, Very Bad Things, or whatever it is, when they get into the fight with that hooker, and they push her, and she lands on a coat hook on the wall. That's exactly what happened to him. There's these, like, things sticking out, like bolts. And when she kicks him off of her, he goes back and is skewered on those. So that was pretty interesting. That was a good kill. So now that we have that going on, we have the bad people, the bad faction. They have decided that, they're going to start, like, the best thing they can do is choose a group to sacrifice. And Mike says they won't let any of us live, are you idiots? Because that was Barry and them's idea. It's like, well, better 30 of us die than 60 of us. And Mike, who was very, very true. I mean, anyone with the half a brain is going to know. What do you think? They're going to let a winner walk away with some money or give you a fancy house or something? You don't honestly think that they're going to kill 60, so let's kill 30, and that would have left 46. That this isn't going to end until we are all dead, or there's just one winner. And even then, that could let somebody... They can't let anyone go to tell this story. So you're stupid to even be thinking of this. And that is very true. Mike being the leader of the good faction, the no-kill faction, whereas Barry and Wendell are the leader of the kill faction, is like the way I like to refer to them. So Mike says they won't let any of us live. You must be idiots to think something like that. And they come up with the idea that they can go up to the roof and try. Now, I don't know why they did that, because in my personal opinion, Stoner Boy and them group was up there, and that woman got shot through the head. And at the very beginning of this movie, I don't think they're going to let us hang banners off the side of the building asking for help. But, what are you going to do? So they're going to go and try that. They're going to make banners to try to ask for help to hang off of the building, to see if someone maybe on the highway or something can call help. So Barry and Terry and Wendell, told you I was going to do that. Wendell, they do what they said. They gather, they just start going through, because now they've gotten into the armory, so they have the guns, and they get everybody in the building to go to the lobby while Mike and them are up there making the banners. So behind their back, Barry and them are like initiating their plan. So they get everybody down there, and that they're going to, do this to choose. And that was a very, very difficult scene to watch because Barry has just took it upon himself to be the god of this whole situation. So it's by his logical perspective criteria that he is going to choose these 30 people. He's like, I think one of his criteria was if you don't have any children under the age of 18, if you're over 60, so he was ready to get rid of all the coffin dodgers, you know what I'm saying? So his criteria, he's going to try to pick and choose who is going to live by his fair assessment of a criteria. This takes place after they got into the armory. They do go up there and try to put the banners. That, of course, doesn't work. One of the guys gets shot, but he doesn't get killed. But they know that that's not going to work. And as they're coming down the stairs, they are attacked by Barry and Mitchell and Terry, who, because they're the last ones. They've got everybody else down into the lobby, and they're the last ones. So they attack them in the hallway. They knock Mike out. They kill Barry. They kill Evan, which is pretty sick, sad and sick. So that was a pretty, screwed up scene. They get everybody else to go down there. Now, Mike does eventually wake up and get down there into the lobby, and that's when we see the big choices scene. And they actually have Mike and Leandra chosen to die. They do manage to pop quite a few of them off before Danny to the rescue down there in the basement girl. You know what I'm saying? She manages to go, because she had come up for a little bit, saw what was going on, figured it was best to go right back to where she came from. And down there, she ends up cutting off the lights right before Terry shoots Mike. So it was just like that. He was finger on the trigger, ready to pull it. So once the lights go out, it's like a free-for-all, which was very cool. So you have this free-for-all. You have a lot of really good kills, a lot of surprising kills. And then at the end, they're one person short. And what really sucked about that, and it's I think it's the most shittiest point in this whole movie. And that was Terry, after all the fuck that he had done with Barry and Mitchell, he tries to kill Leandra. And she has him alone in the room. And he cries and he whines. You can. They should have put Godsmack's crying like a bitch at this scene, because that's what he was doing. He was crying and carrying on, and she, he just tried to kill her, right? But instead, she lets her soft touch go. She says, "I'm not going to hurt you," and walks away. And that's what causes all of this. Barry, Mike shows up, and they all run, and then time's up, and there was only 29 killed. And they meant it, because at that point, people's heads started popping all over that place. Some really gross scenes, really funny. I think the funny part of it was Stoner Boy standing there, going, "This is all in my head, this is all in my head," while people go around him. That was a little funny scene. There's not many funny scenes in this movie. That was kind of funny. Because, I don't know what he had been smoking, but he handled things the best he could, I guess. But, so, that took out 60 people, They were gone like that. So that kind of cut it all down. Barry's still alive. Leandra's still alive. Mitchell's still alive. Interestingly enough, Danny and Roberto have been managed to stay alive. They're hiding on top of the elevator, which was a pretty cool idea. Now, the voice comes back on again and is like, this is the last round. And the way that we're going to do this last round is basically what Mike had said from the beginning. There's only one person that's going to be allowed to walk out of here, and it's the person with the most kills. And then they started reading off. You know, Barry's got so many, and of the people that are left alive anyway. And this was like the other funny scene in the movie. Remember I told you Danny and Roberto are like hiding on top of the elevator, and they're all like huddled up together, and he's got his arm around her and stuff. And say he had no idea about what had happened to her in the basement, which is actually, you know, that was a necessary kill. But the look on his face, because they're reading off who's killed people, and it gets to her and he's like, and Danny has one kill, you know, and his face like changes and he like removes his arm from her, you know, like, okay, this twisted bitch was like not what I thought. So, because he hadn't killed anyone. So, and you could see the look on her face too was sort of like, yeah, I did do that, didn't I? So, you know, if you thought you were going to keep that quiet, you weren't. So, once that took place, then you have like the hunt down, right? Like the last few survivors. They're all like trying. One guy's like, he like throws, he makes a bunch of Molotov cocktails and he burns up one lady that way, but then he gets shot by Barry. Leandra, Barry got on the elevator. I was trying to think of how Danny and Roberta got taken care of. Barry got on the elevator and he actually heard them up there and started shooting. And so she like stepped off the elevator and Roberta got crushed at the top, which was pretty painful looking. And it didn't even do it in a way that killed him quick either. It was a lingering death. Because, you know, when you're in that much kind of shit, 15, 20 seconds is a lingering death. No, a lingering death is like a couple of gut wounds that you like bleed out for 47 minutes. I'm like, no, when you're in the kind of pain of being crushed in half by an elevator, you kind of just want 1 second, not 22. So in that situation, I think you would consider it lingering, especially compared to what you wanted. So we have a lot of cool face-offs, especially the face-off between Leandra and Mike ended up getting back together, and because they were having an affair before all this started. So they ended up getting back together, and they have like a shootout with Barry. And right before they met back up, Leandra had the big showdown with Mitchell, which was absolutely great because he tried to kill her ugly, and she got him back by like axing his head with a big axe, so that was thrilling. She then came out. Her and Mike met up, and then Barry and them had a show off. And I'll be damned if she didn't get shot and ended up dying in Mike's arms, causing Mike and Barry to have this big giant final showdown, at which Mike won, thankfully. And once he had won, I don't remember anything. So everybody's dead, but Barry and Mike, and then Mike ends up killing him and like crushing his head, which was very appropriate in my opinion. At which point the plates come down from all the windows, the doors open, the voice says you've won, the soldiers come in and get him, And when they do, they end up taking him to the hangar next door where we meet the voice. Now, interestingly enough, I can't tell you his name, but he's the guy from Body Double with, the Brian De Palma film, Body Double. You had the guy that lived next door that did the trick on the guy because he wanted his wife dead. It's him playing this voice guy. So you'd recognize him. You'll recognize a lot of people in this movie. It's got a great cast. So he goes over there and he's like, what the fuck did you do this for? And he's like, oh, well, And he's obviously been through trauma because he's like got burn scars and shit. Well, the government really doesn't like us scientists to be able to do things like this, so we have to do it in our own way. We're part of an international scientific organization that arranges these kinds of things so that we can gather data on it. Now, so it's like, answer our questions and you can go. So Mike ends up saying, well, let me ask you a question. Now, to flashback, one of the ideas that one of them had, Stoner Boy actually, he had been going to the dead bodies that were killed in another way than having your head blown up and actually getting out the little tags. So he had a handful of those tags. And Mike had pocketed them. So when the soldiers got him and took him over to the thing, he had been slipping a tag into each body that got close enough to him. So all the soldiers had tags on them. And he had even slipped one into the voice. I think he had slipped one into everyone but 2, maybe 3 of like the 10 people that were around. So they were, he said, let me ask you a question. What do you think I did with the bombs? You didn't see me put them in my pocket? Because he knew that they had seen Stoner doing that, but they did not see him get them. And that's when they was like, what bombs? What are you talking about? And he talks about the tags. And he's like, where are they? And he's like, they're on you. They're on you guys. And then he saw the control panel over there with all of the ones who had not been triggered. So he just runs over there and he slops all of the controls, causing everybody, including the voice, had one in his pocket right here and it blew up his side. So he then grabbed an AK, I guess, or an AR, whichever, and he turned around and he took off one of the little science boys that was sitting there. He didn't manage to get one on him. And I think maybe 2 of the soldiers, but he did pop them with the gun. So he killed them. He then really killed the voice, which was good. And then he walks out into the light. So I thought that was good, that they didn't get any information from him. But then, as he walks out into the light, the camera swings back and we see an ever-increasing amount of multiple displays pretty much showing the same thing, the last survivor. And by the time it zoomed out, there was probably I would say 50, maybe, by the time it zoomed out and faded to black. And so they've been doing this for a long time, obviously. And that's when the movie ended, and I gave it a 9 out of 10. I absolutely love the Belko experiment. Now, like I said, what's interesting about this is I would have been more like Danny. You can tell me how you would have handled this situation. I know, of course, I've been to school for this crap, so I might have a one-up on people who have not, but psychologically, I would know once I knew what this situation was, I would know that we are going to split into factions, that there is going to be the Rambo type, I'm going to mow my way through this, and we're going to have the, oh my gosh, I'm not going to hurt anyone, you're not going to take my morals faction. But to tell you the truth, I'm not going to be part of either one. I, of course, morally agree with the no-kill faction, but we're in a situation in which my moral beliefs aren't really going to do a damn thing except, I'm going to be dead right there, or I'm going to be not dead right there. I would be more like Danny. I would have taken off while I tried to figure it out. Now, if you remember in the Hunger Games, the changelings, the two couples, the couple who survived the Hunger Games by doing what? Hiding until everyone else had killed each other. That's my plan. There were two of them, right, in the Hunger Games that had done that. So they actually just stayed the fuck away from everybody and let them all kill each other. That's the kind of devious that I am. You know what I mean? And I need to figure things out. And I need to figure things out on my own. So I would be knowing that factions were going to happen and that when push comes to shove, with everybody got a TikTok in their head, I know that it's not against the rules to just avoid everybody until they've all killed each other. So that would kind of be my choice. I would kill back if I'm attacked. So I would defend myself. And if somebody did come upon me in my hiding, because that's how Danny got it. She had hid and hid and hid. And then, but she stupidly climbed back down in that elevator, and with the elevator door open, she had no idea that fucking Barry was going to be standing right there, and it was like, ding! He looks and sees her and shoots her right through the head, and you're like, well, that was fucked up. If she'd have just stayed, maybe, in that elevator tube, she may have actually been the last. Of course, who knows, Mike killed Barry. Mike would have been the last. She would have been hiding in the building. I might turn ugly at that point. Because I know that's what you're asking. You're saying, well, yeah. But what if the last two is an odd number? If it all works out correctly for you, there were 80 people. But if it all works out correctly for you, the last two people alive will kill each other. But if one's alive, that means you're not the last. There's no one left to kill him but you. So, I would either roll the dice and hope that the last two people killed each other. Or at least that I'm only going to have to kill one person. And that is whoever's left. Then I'm going to fall out the roof. When they go, yes, I've won. Sorry. I've been hiding the whole time in the fucking rafters, and now I guess I do have to take you out. But I would try to get away without murdering anyone. I would try to hide until everybody died. It worked out for those two in the Hunger Games. In two different Hunger Games, a person survived by hiding until everyone else was dead. So, that's what I would do. If it turns out that there was one person left, though, and they didn't kill each other, I would probably we'd have to see who comes out on top. But that's the Belko experiment. 9 out of 10. I love this movie. It used to be my third. I haven't included the Hunger Games in this because that's a franchise and I'll do it on its own. But my favorite Battle Royale is Battle Royale from 2000, the Japanese movie. My second is the Hunger Games franchise. This was my third. The Belko experiment was my third favorite Battle Royale until I got and discovered and found and watched and now own Triggered. Triggered became my third favorite Battle Royale of all time. I did a video on it. You can go see. And the Belko experiment is now my fourth. So, yeah. That is the Battle Royale Festival. We'll get back to a little bit of horror. And I will see you in the next. Always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person. Don't let anyone ever tell you different. Even if you have 79 motherfuckers trying to kill you because you're part of a government conspiracy to gather data on the human psychological effect of a battle royale. So, don't let anybody put tags in your head, even if you go to work in Brazil, because you just never know. Bye-bye.